Today we're going to talk about Founded on Integrity. And one of my favorite songs is by a worship band named Hillsong. And it's called Inside Out. And it says this: 1,000 times I've failed, yet still your mercy remains. And should I stumble again, still I'm caught in your grace. Everlasting your light will shine when all else fades. Never ending your glory goes beyond all fame. My heart and my soul, I give you control. Consume me from the inside out. Lord, let justice and praise become my embrace to love you from the inside out. And I think this is the cry of all of our hearts. We don't want to just have a Christianity that's external, that's going to church and doing the rules and keeping all the religious duties. We want to know God. We want to know Jesus Christ and have a relationship with him. We want to be transformed really from the inside out. You know, Jesus talked about this in the Sermon on the Mount. He talked about how blessed are those who are pure in heart. He wasn't just concerned about outward actions, but purity within the heart. And I know last fall we looked at the Sermon on the Mount, and in that we noticed that Jesus was very concerned about motives and not just actions. You know, he talks about if you look at a woman to lust for her, it's really kind of the same as if you committed adultery in your heart. And he says if it's not enough just to not murder your brother. He says if you get angry with him and you call him a stupid idiot, you're in danger of the fire of hell. Amazingly how he's concerned about what's on the inside, not just our actions, not just our external looks and how we appear to others. I just think about what Jesus said also in Matthew 23. You know, his greatest enemies were not the prostitutes or the tax collectors or people that were just in these really gross and bad sins, but they were the hypocrites, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And right in the middle of his rebuke in Matthew 23, he says this to them. He says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For you clean the outside of the cup and the plate, but inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence." I mean, imagine you have a cup, and you got the outside spotlessly clean, but inside there's just all this filthy junk in there. I mean, what good is that? Or he says, "You blind Pharisees, first clean the inside of the cup and the plate, that the outside also may be clean. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and all uncleanness." You think about a beautiful mausoleum with marble walls and everything, but inside there's just nothing but dead men's bones and uncleanness. He says, "So you also outwardly appear righteous to others, but within you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness." Very clearly, Jesus is concerned, and God is concerned with transforming not just our behavior, not just so that we do things out of duty, but so that we actually love God and love people. And that becomes the defining part, and we've become changed from the inside out. I think over the last 10 years in particular, I've just grown in this, trying to look within more and understand what's going on in my heart, to pay more attention to my emotions. And I've been involved in the care ministries here at Stonebrook. It's helped me to do that because I want to help people change from the inside out, not just, kind of a biting your nails type of obedience, but where you're honestly and wholeheartedly following God. I think to do this, it really takes an understanding of the gospel of grace. When I look inside, I find things that are I find pride, I find anger at God, at others, I find even hatred sometimes. I find, disappointments and depression and discouragement, all the things that I know I shouldn't be like. And it's only by the grace of God and understanding that God has forgiven through Jesus Christ every single transgression, every single wrong thought, every single wrong attitude, that you even have the courage to even think about looking inside and seeing what's going on inside. One thing I found that's been most helpful for me in this is to have routine and regular times of silence and solitude, of prayer and meditation. I try to do this every day. Every morning I get up, I go on a prayer walk, half hour, 45 minutes, and just open my heart up before God. A lot of times it starts out saying, God, I really don't want to do this morning. I'm just feeling grumpy, and I wish I was doing something else. But by the time I get done with that time, I've been able just to air my concerns and my griefs and my sorrows or my fears or complaints to Him. And I believe it's in times like this that the inner part of our souls really start to be transformed. And God can do that in many different ways, through fellowship, through reading the Bible, and through many ways. But a lot of it I've found has been very important for me is in these private times with God. A lot of times in my prayer is, search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxious thoughts, and see if there be any hurtful way within me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Psalm 139, the last verse. Just opening up and letting God search. God, what's wrong inside? I mean, if we're going to change, the first thing we have to do is admit that we need to change. Otherwise, we won't even want to change within. And God has to expose the junk inside before there's a possibility of even changing it. I know the other night, my wife and I, every Monday night we have a date together. It's our special time. It's been very foundational to our marriage and our relationship. And right before that time, my wife has a date with God. She has about 2 to 3 hours that she takes on Monday afternoons. Just spending time with God, just opening up her heart before the Lord, maybe journaling what she's feeling and thinking and complaining and pouring out her heart in prayer and for things that are concerning her. And I do that on Friday afternoons, but she does that right before our date on Mondays. And this last Monday, we got together, and she was telling me some of the things, and she'd been singing some songs. And one song that she sang was Sweet Hour of Prayer, and I'd just like to read some of the verses here to you. Sweet hour of prayer that calls me from a world of care and bids me at my Father's throne make all my wants and wishes known. It's just a wonderful place that I know that she's found and that I find in the presence of God, just bringing whatever it is, whatever concerns us before Him, and making our wants and our wishes known. And then the last verse of that song, it says, sweet hour of prayer, may I thy consolation share, till from Mount Pisgah's lofty height I view my home and take my flight. Now, Mount Pisgah was the mountain that Moses viewed the promised land from, and the mountain that he died on. And so it's talking about it, and that day when God takes me home, He says, this robe of flesh I'll drop and rise to seize the everlasting prize, and shout while passing through the air, farewell, farewell, sweet hour of prayer. I know my wife, she was sharing that with me, and both of us were in tears, just thinking about how special, how relational, how personal, how precious those times of prayer have become to us. And it's not happened automatically or quickly necessarily. There have been many times we've gotten with God, and those times have been dull or difficult. But over the years, as we've just persevered and sought the Lord, I just think of what He said, you'll seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. And that's become so special. It's just hard to even think about leaving. I think as you think of going up to heaven, I don't think we'll be saying, farewell, farewell, Monday night football, or farewell, even some romantic weekend. But for me, the most special, the most precious time where I've been closer to God than to anyone else has been in those times of prayer. And it's in times like this, those times of solitude and silence, that God really starts to transform us from the inside out. We can go through all the motions, we can go to church, but unless we really open up to God and develop that intimacy with Him, we're just not going to really change from the inside out. I say these things not to exalt my wife or I that we're something special, but just to give just maybe a sense to whet your appetite a little bit, that there are people in this world that we found God. We know Him. We're walking with Him. And not that that's always perfect by any means, but it's really there. We really can find God. We can really bring our every struggle or every trial to Him, and we really can be changed from the inside out.